Today, we set out to answer one of man's oldest questions. Does size really matter? Let's go. Does size matter? Does stiffness matter?
Both probably irrelevant depending on who you ask. Jesus.
Have you visited your doctor lately? Now today we're doing all things stabilizers. Josh, if you and I were looking at a bow and we're just like, what's a good starting point typically for a hunting bow?
If you're going to use a dual bar setup, my personal recommendation is 1.5 times as long as it is off to the side. So if you're 15 here, you're 10 here in general. Now that's going to be different for everybody and whatnot, but that's a good starting point. Twice as much weight back here as you have here. Every bow is going to be different in how that positions, where that feels best at, but if you're going to start somewhere, that's usually where you start from.
What I would add to that is I would hunt with the longest front bar you're comfortable hunting with. If you can hunt with a 15 and that's mobile enough for you, that's cool.
For sure.
If you're only shooting from a tree stand, maybe you only hunt with a 6 or an 8 out front. And I have a little stabilizer hack I want to share with you guys that I think is an excellent option if you're not trying to launch bombs while you're hunting. Longest bar you can handle, the length of the bar allows your weight to be just a little more meaningful. Longer the bar, a couple ounces has more effect.
Personally, when I'm trying to determine how long my front bar should be, as long as it's comfortable for me, I try to make sure I can just clear my elbow area somewhere in there. So if you're holding onto your bow like so and you're bending it, as long as it doesn't protrude much past that, it's not going to be more awkward to get into. But you know, when you're carrying it around, I mean, I have long arms, I'm a tall guy, but that's what, a 15 with a quick disconnect and an additional base. So from here to here is probably like 16 inches. As long as it's not like tucking up into your armpit or whatnot when you're carrying it in that fashion, and you can keep it along the lines of your elbow, it's not going to be super awkward in thick terrain. Now, if you're in open country, I mean, last year, I want to say my open country hunting bow, I had a 18-inch or 19-inch stabilizer on there because I'm constantly walking around like this, loaded, right? So if I'm in open country, I'm not going through thick crap, I'm constantly walking around just like this. So as long as my stabilizer is not longer than my bow is before I draw the bow back, I really don't see the harm, personally. And by moving this farther away from you, you can put less weight here, but it feels heavier. So you don't have to carry around as much weight, but it feels way more effective, like Tim was pointing out earlier. So those are just a couple of thoughts on the best way to try to determine what you want. That's what I like to do.
First of all, very proud of Josh for being willing to share his front bar length with the internet. We are gonna hop in and do some fine tuning on my bars on both bows because I know they're just not quite there. And the reason I know that is because often when I'm shooting, you'll see the top of my bow just a little wavering back and forth. And that's because my bubble isn't quite where it needs to be. And then I end up focusing on my bubble when I should be focusing on my shot. So we're gonna dial it in. You into those?
Well, yeah, it is peach. Peachy keen. You just get me.
I just know that we can give our very best content with just the right level of caffeine. Is what I
just had nice coffee, so I might have a heart attack.
Easy now.
Well,
Maybe you don't slug it.
After last week, I need the extra kick. It tastes so damn good. Oh, get down, get down, get down, get down.
So Josh has this little trick that's kind of like witchcraft. Kind of want him to take it away and share it with you guys.
There's two schools of thought when you're trying to balance out a bow with stabilizers. One is to get the bow to sit balanced all by its lonesome without your influence into it, ideally. And then two, some people deliberately put pressure into it so it kind of forces, bias into your grip to kind of force you to hold steady. That's more of a target thing. So what we're going to try to show here is how I try to set a hunting bow up, standing on uneven terrain, awkward situations, etc. The bow's trying to balance itself and you're not trying to influence it.
So, you want to interrupt this fine production to tell them about your big promotion or whatever you got going? Yeah, man, I'm on the road to 100,000 subscribers. They need to hit that subscribe button. Help me out. I hustle every week and I try to put out the best videos I can. Don't you feel like these people you expose yourself to every week are getting a little sick of your, first of all, quirks, First of all, shenanigans, I will expose myself to whoever I feel I need to. And shenanigans, yeah, maybe a few. It's fun though. This is supposed to be fun. Making videos is fun. Isn't that what we do? Fun? For the love of it all, quit yapping.
Hey.
Quit yappity yap. Stop it. Let's get these fine folks back to the video. You don't tell them back to the video. Let's get back to the video.
Go ahead and give it a pull back here.
I'll give it a pull. And do I close my eyes?
Yes, close your eyes. Well, actually, no. Draw the bow back and get it level.
Okay.
Anchor in, get everything level.
Okay.
Okay, do me a favor and take your finger off the trigger so you don't accidentally kill me. Close your eyes. Okay, now open your eyes. What's the level look like?
The level's way right.
Okay, so your bubbles.
Bubbles right.
Bubbles right. Okay, so that means your bar's kicked out too far that way for a natural position and trying to do balance. So we'd want to bring it in a little bit or remove some weight off of it. If you like the amount of weight that's on it, you're simply going to bring it in a little bit. So this little guy, key holder there.
Yep.
Got it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
One of the reasons I wanted to share this with you guys today is because I feel like stabilizers are a bit of an odds multiplier or a hack that can help you hold better, shoot better, more consistently. And that's become apparent to me shooting my target bow more. Is like those things really matter to get your bow to hold just so.
Anchor in, get her level. Get your finger off the trigger, please. Thank you. Say when you're good.
Good.
Okay. Wait for it to stop moving, then open her up. What do you see?
A smidge bubble right.
We probably need to come in a little bit more. That was maybe a third of how far out you are from square. Try her again. Uno más. Now when you're good. Let it balance out and open your eyes. What do you see?
It's very close. It's just inside.
Still right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where when you start doing this, people will naturally point their bar at an angle because they see it out like that, but it won't sit like that. That's putting bias into your hand. You end up bringing these things in a lot, which is where I tend to run my bars, is more in because it's naturally just sitting there. If you can't get your bow to stop moving at some point, you can put some bias in it and that'll help. But in general, that's about where you want it. Yeah, you don't.
I haven't ran a bar in like this in a while.
Well, you probably haven't done this test in a while.
Yeah, I haven't.
Well, it just depends. Like having your bar out at an angle on purpose can help you get steady in your hand, but it's not going to help the bow sit level on its own. And when you're on an uneven terrain situation and a hunting situation, if the bow's balancing itself, you're likely to keep your bubble in square at distance, i.e. a situation where you're not paying as much attention to what you're doing.
Like in the same spot where it's inside the lines, but it's on the right side, so we don't have too much more room to go.
Go a little, see what it does.
See what it does, yeah.
We ain't there yet. Rotate 90. There you go. Well, I think what you're experiencing here is the bow's already pretty balanced without a sidebar.
The way this sits right now, I mean, we're going to check it out. This should be very close to balance. Instead of running my stabilizer like this, I'd probably consider an offset bar as maybe a better option, depending.
Which the new model is almost in stores.
Yeah, it's awesome. I haven't ran my bar that far in a while, so I'm glad we checked for you. Now we're also going to double check that on my target bow because I think the target bow needs a double check, and it's just like a different tool. I want you guys to see. Well, long bars, 15 and 10 with 3 in the front, 5 in the back right now. Trooper, Supra.
Trooper, Supra.
Supra, Trooper. Supra, Trooper.
Super Trooper.
Hey. Get over here.
I don't think that's a Star Wars reference. I think that's a Super Troopers reference. Littering and...
Littering and...
Littering and...
Littering and...
Smoking the reefer. Officer Rabbit and I are going to sit here while you guys eat the whole bag.
Okay, so here is my long bars of destiny on this. This is 15 on the back, 33 on the front. Definitely compensating for something.
This is absolutely the definition of compensating for something. And this is the example of what putting bias into your grip would be. By putting that bar out at such an angle, if you didn't pay any attention to what your bow was doing and didn't try to manipulate it, it would literally sit like this, right? And that would not be accurate. But how that tricks is it forces pressure into your hand that helps steady you, believe it or not. This is an example of deliberately biasing your bow to try to get it to shoot. Now the concerning thing about bias, why you want to try to avoid going too far over, because the farther you go, the more you'll feel it in your hand. And once you get used to it, it does tend to steady it up a little bit. So it makes the bow a lot harder to tune. So by the farther you move this over, the farther your left-right tear you're going to get. There's no way around it, because you're deliberately torquing the bow. So as it goes off, it wants to whip back the other direction because of the way the weight sits. So just be cautious in how far you run this, and be aware that every time you move that left or right, you're going to retune the bow, because it's literally putting more torque or less torque into it based off of the position that you put it at.
Yeah, and I even find that when I do move that, I also then have to remove my sight, because it actually changes my point of impact.
It does, 100%. Yeah. Like good example, third day of Vegas, I had gotten so desperate to get the chaos to stop, because it just kept moving more and more and more and wouldn't stop. I borrowed somebody's wrench on the line and moved my bar over a bunch. Screw it, I'd rather just try to do something than, and if I got a resight in the middle of it, I think I was on round 4, I moved my bar over 20%. It moved my impact point that far at 20 yards. My pin moving around a lot less, because it put pressure into my hand and kind of forced a little tension into your forearm and your grip because of that bias. So bias can be a really good thing. I just don't really recommend it in a hunting bow because of the uneven terrain issue, random positions, trying to be off balance and hold the bow. If the bow balances itself in that scenario, I think you're better off. But in a target situation, in the world to make your shot, controlled environment, no issue with putting bias in your bow, and that's exactly what we've done here.
Different tools, which is why I wanted to also have this bow in here a little bit. Speaking of bows, target bow, hunting bow, budget bow. That's coming soon to the channel. We're just kind of weeding through, like, who makes it into the first round of budget bow cuts. So if you have a budget bow you'd like us to check out, drop it down below in the comments. We're going to weed through them and see. I'm going to see if I can make the best possible budget bow I can make this year. And maybe we agree on it, maybe we don't.
Definition of budget bow, by the way, is $650 retail price or less.
Okay.
Because we have to be able to add equipment to it to make a $1,000 bow.
Yeah. We're
trying to make you a $1,000 bow the best way we could possibly do it.
I guess I'll just give it a drawback and tell me if you think there's anything you see.
Well, yeah, let's not shoot it for 100 in here. Or whatever squatch length you were shooting there. So one, I would probably incorporate a finger sling so you're not grabbing your bow when it goes off, because you are. What those are for, and anytime you manipulate, it's a timing issue. So if you touch the front of your riser and the arrow hasn't fully left here, you can be manipulating outcomes throughout the riser. So that's why I use a finger sling when I'm using something like this. No, I can't drop it no matter what. And you still, when you have a lot of bias in it, it's going to shove it into your hand and you're naturally going to kind of react to it. But the hope is that the arrow's gone before your reaction exists, which is harder to do without a sling. Two, you could probably bump that bar over a little bit because you don't have a whole ton of hand pressure in there, and might actually steady you up a little bit by moving that over a skosh. Go ahead and shoot.
More to the left?
Yeah, just a little bit. Go shoot. Can you shoot another one for me? Okay. And try really hard not to touch that front. So I want to see what the bow does when it goes off.
Okay. 10-4.
It sits pretty good. I mean, you're not getting a whole bunch of whip. I like your balance. Like the bow goes off and it goes forward and then rolls down. It's not like whipping really hard down or whipping really hard back. So you should have good physical weight load from where you have it in the front and the back and where that sits. I'd probably just move your sidewire out a little bit. Outside of that, I don't think I'd change it. Like it looks good.
Yeah. That's cool. It feels pretty balanced to me, but it's always good to check. Shooting paper, shooting scores a lot with my target bow makes it a little easier for me to judge, hey, did this help? Did it hurt? Are my scores getting better? Is my bow holding better? Might be a little easier to assess with this.
There you go.
An offset bar, which I do believe to be a little bit of a hack for keeping your hunting bow streamlined. It's the same offset bracket I used on the Bear Adapt Plus when I tested that, and I got that bow to shoot it as good as I could. Offset bracket, pretty neat little idea. I'm actually surprised. Very few people know about this. I think most people that hunt 50 yards or less, this is perhaps the best option.
It's pretty simple. So it mounts where you'd normally mount your stabilizer and moves your stabilizer mounting hole over. So you take the same amount of weight that you had, you're not adding an additional bar, you're not adding additional weight other than the bracket itself, which barely weighs more than a wrist sling bracket would on its own, and moves the weight over so when you hold the bow out, it actually sits relatively level without adding an additional bar to it. This is simple, easy, not expensive, and I have a brand new model of this coming out. Well, it might be here by the time you actually make this video and put it out, but we'll have a little quick disconnect built into here so you don't have to unscrew it all the way off to get it off and put it in your case.
I'll make sure we show that because it is a contender for me to use and hunt with. And if you're a person that's going to strap it on a backpack or throw it in an ATV, like this just makes a much more streamlined package.
Getting in and out of rigs, it makes a big difference to not have that extra mass in there. I did gripe about that a lot this last year, always having 2 bars, and I was always taking one of them off to get in and out of somewhere. It was a pain in the butt. It's a simple idea, and it just flat works without a lot of expense.
And not that many people know about it, so I figured I'd share that with you guys. Cool thing about archery is it's not a one-size-fits-all program. It's a kind of choose-your-own road. So you could set your bow up simply with an offset bracket. Pretty cool. Contender for me to put on my hunting bow. You can make it as balanced as possible, like most hunting bows should be set up. Or you can set it up like the target community guys, gals do more, have a little bit of bias.
Where it wants to do this, but it forces you to do that.
Yeah, you lean into it, creating a little more stability with a little more pressure. Yeah.
It's noticeable.
Yeah. So guys, Josh has a YouTube channel. Go check it out. I'm on the road to 100,000 subscribers. It would mean a lot to me if you'd subscribe to the channel. We're going to knock off Brandon McDonald on our way there. And
he's actually trying more. I don't know what you did with that, but man, you got a little fire under him. I haven't seen him post so much crap in the last 30 days. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Hi, Brandon. I know you're watching.
And we're going to tack San Antonio to shoot with the Ranch Fairy. Will he be shooting 700 grain arrows? Will he be shooting an EZV sight? I don't know, but it's going to be awesome.
Gonna find out.
I look forward to hanging out with friends that like to shoot bows, and it's going to be a great trip. So in conclusion, does length really matter?
You'd like to think it doesn't, but oh, it does.
For archery, friends. We'll see you back.